Baxter here. Today we're going to talk about theme, how to find it, and what it is in a story. The theme is the message or the lesson learned from a story. Theme is very different than main idea. The main idea of a story is what the passage is mostly about, but the theme teaches something. Sometimes people confuse these two things, but they are very different. Only in a theme do you have a general purpose or message that someone can learn from. Theme is very often inferred. Sometimes the author tells us at the end of the story what the moral is, but usually we infer that. Remember we talked about inferencing? That's when we use some clues from the passage, add to it our prior knowledge and experience, and come up with an inference. In this case, we come up with a theme. We look for clues from the passage like what the character says, what the character does, or maybe how they change over the course of the story. We add to that our own personal experiences with some of these topics, and that results in a theme. One of the most important things to remember about theme is that it must be a general statement. Theme has to be something that anybody can learn from. You or I or the neighbor down the street, everybody can learn from the theme. If your theme mentions one specific character or an event that's only particular to the story, that's not your theme. You have to make it general enough that all of us can learn from it. Let's look at a few examples of common themes. Hard work pays off. Family is important. It's okay to make mistakes. And money doesn't buy happiness. These are all general statements. No characters mentioned. It doesn't matter what story they came from. In fact, you can probably think in your head more than one story that these themes might work with. Now, a story can have more than one theme too. You might find a theme and I might find a theme that's different from what you came up with. That's because you and I have different personal experiences, and those lend themselves to finding a theme. Let's look at an example together and see if we can determine the theme of this passage.
Follow along with me as we read this passage and find the theme together. The Ant and the Cocoon. On a sunny day, an ant was searching for food and came across a cocoon that was about to change. At the end of the cocoon, the ant could see a tail moving. The movement attracted the ant, who then saw that there was something alive and said, "I pity such a creature that has to live inside such a thing, while I can move freely about at my pleasure. If I want, I can climb a tree while you lie inside a shell. You can only move a little bit of your tail." The creature in the cocoon heard every word, but said nothing. A few days later, the ant happened by the same place. It noticed the cocoon and inspected it. There was nothing inside. "I wonder what happened to the poor creature inside," the ant said. At that moment, the ant felt a cool breeze as shade covered him. He looked up and saw a beautiful butterfly. "Who are you?" asked the ant. "Don't you recognize me?" said the butterfly. "I am the creature you pitied because I was locked inside a cocoon. You may boast of your ability to run freely, but I won't listen very long." And with that, the butterfly flapped its wings and rose up until it caught a breath of wind and was soon out of the ant's sight. As I read this story, I think about what I know about the ant and this cocoon. I remember that the ant saw something alive in that cocoon and said he pitied it because it couldn't move about very freely. And then a few days later, after the butterfly came out of its cocoon and had this wonderful ability to fly, it had wings that the ant did not have, and it could go much further than the ant could. The ant learned a lesson. The ant learned that just because something looks like it's not very free because it's in a cocoon, doesn't mean that's always the case. If I were to state this theme in a general way, I might say, never judge a book by its cover, to use an expression, or maybe appearances can be deceiving. Both of those are stated in general ways. You could also turn it into a more general sentence and say, don't judge someone else when you don't know what's really going on. All of these themes are general things that you and I could learn from based on this ant's experience. The next time you read through a passage, stop and think, what is it teaching me here? What is the theme that I could learn?